Hey everybody, welcome back. We are here with another team analysis on the third team we used on this series, which was our Whimsicott support team, or at least that's what I'm calling it. It's funny that originally was designed to feature Duralumin with Whimsicott, but it ended up just kind of being a lot more Whimsicott stealing the show, especially like Whimsicott Charizard. But nonetheless, I think it was a very fun team that performed fairly well, so I'll go ahead and jump into it for you guys in order to kind of give this team comp, how to play it, the sets, all that stuff. And yeah, let's jump ahead. Alright, so first Pokemon, which ended up being kind of the center of the team, was Whimsicott. A very annoying Pokemon to face against, if I do say so myself. I hate playing against it. However, I've kind of loved using it in this format. I think Whimsicott's very good, especially with the changes to how speed works now. So you can set up a Prankster Tailwind and immediately get the speed boost. So I think that's really, really good right now. Plus, Whimsicott's got a few other tricks that I think is really useful. So just looking at the set, really just straightforward, timid nature to be the fastest it can be, and then I just get max special attack 4 HP. So it's Moonblast for doing more damage. So Whimsicott's a very frail Pokemon, and it's really, really easy to just knock out in one hit. Typically, people run Focus Sash, and I usually would too. But there's been a new set taking the format by storm with this eject button switcheroo set, which I think a friend and I were talking about, like a trick switcheroo or like a trick eject button Grimmsnarl, which I think is also really cool. But Whimsicott easily can do it as well, and it's faster. But you just basically switcheroo with the Pokemon that you think is going to Dynamax, so it takes the eject button, and then you have like a Pokemon that's faster than it that will then hit it and eject it out, and Dynamax Pokemon do get ejected out. So it's a kind of a neat strategy. Or if you want to stop Trick Room or deal with some sort of setup, you can just get something out of there. So I think it's actually really worth using if you can use it right. Sometimes it's a dud, sometimes it's incredible. It's just you got to kind of pick your moments. Yeah, and then Fake Tears, I think Fake Tears Whimsicott is really good, especially when paired up with Charizard or Duralumin, two really good and powerful special attackers. And then, Tailwind, you don't have a Whimsicott without Tailwind. That's kind of the biggest reason to run it, is for that Prankster Tailwind. And then Moonblast just for its best Fairies type stab move. So, like I said, pretty straightforward Whimsicott, really cool. And then one other neat thing about eject button is, say you get a Tailwind off and then Whimsicott gets hit but doesn't get knocked out, it gets ejected out, and then you can bring something new in under Tailwind like Duralumin or even Obstagoon that will now threaten lots of more damage than Whimsicott could potentially. So yeah, Whimsicott, really cool Pokemon. I really enjoyed using it. I definitely will be using it on more teams in the future. Next is kind of the biggest or the best partner, baddest partner for Whimsicott, Charizard. Whimsicott Charizard is a very, very threatening lead, because Charizard, for one, has a very good speed stat in this format. 100 base speed is very fast, and so with that plus Fake Tears, that makes Charizard really scary, which can run Heat Wave as a spread move, so you can do damage to both, and then you can also Dynamax it and start firing off really powerful single target fire moves, or you can fire off its like really strong stab max airstreams and start boosting speed. You can use your solar beam with max, or you can use max overgrowth with solar beam, which I think is really, really powerful. Gives it Charizard really nice coverage. And then I choose Life Orb, so that way it's doing the most damage it can even while Dynamaxed. It does suck when you get the sun up and you're taking Life Orb damage and solar power damage, but the damage output is, it's absurd, the kind of damage it can do if you set up the sun with the max flare. You can also consider running Sunny Day on Whimsicott. In fact, the team started out with Sunny Day over Switcheroo and a Sash on Whimsicott. But I don't really like using a move that's dedicated to only one Pokemon, because it really only benefited Charizard, not really anything else. If I had some other Pokemon that liked it, I would probably consider it more. But honestly, Charizard, I think with the Life Orb, does pretty good damage on its own, plus with Fake Tears. And if it does manage to set up the sun, then its damage is now it's absurd. So yeah, so that's the main combo. It does combo really well with Whimsicott because of the Fake Tears and the Tailwind, but I think Charizard's a really good standalone Pokemon as well, just because of its speed tier and its options for Dynamax moves. or max moves in general, I think it's really good. And so this one, like I said, really straightforward. Max speed, max special attack, life orb, does as much damage as fast as it can. So yeah, that's the Charizard. Really, really simple Pokemon to use, but I think a really solid choice in this format. Next up, what the team originally started being the center was Duralumin when I first started building it, but of course that quickly changed when it kind of became more about Charizard Whimsicott, but Duralumin still had a really important role in the team. For one, it's a really good Dynamax Pokemon because of its overall bulk, especially on the physical side. Its special defense is definitely, there's something to be desired. However, if you give it some special defense investment, a bunch of HP and an Assault Vest, its special bulk gets really, really good at the cost of being able to use something like Protect. But that's okay, because it's got a lot of good coverage moves. So of course Flash Cannon and Draco as it stabs, and then it gets things like Thunderbolt, Dark Pulse, Solar Beam. I chose to run Snarl to kind of help with Trick Room matchups, specifically like the Follow Me Trick Room setup, to kind of punish some of those trick ups. Even though Duralumin can ignore Follow Me, I think Snarl's still really helpful in that regard, so I can kind of go with either, whatever feels more useful, because if it was like Hatterene and DD, then Flash Cannon is a lot nicer, but maybe in some other setups, Snarl's really good. And also Snarl just helps against Togekiss, as always. And one cool strategy to do with Duralumin to stop Trick Room, as I can switch through the eject button under the Trick Room setter, if it's not like a Follow Me Trick Room setter, and then just Snarl to eject it out. And that just prevents Trick Room outright, which I think is really cool. And then if they have a slow team, I can proceed to make maybe Dynamax and start going for Fake Tears and attacks with Duralumin. If like Fake Tears and attack won't take it out in the first place. So the spread, originally it was meant to survive like was Excadrill Max Quake or something like that, but I ended up just getting rid of the defense EVs and put the rest into special attack. So there's actually not I don't know if I calced the special defense to something specific, but it did give it quite a bit of special bulk, and I did find out it could take 2 Heat Waves from a Life Orb Charizard outside of Sun in one battle if it's double target, which I think is pretty significant. But yeah, so it just does a lot of solid damage. If there's a change that would be worth trying out, maybe taking the Assault Vest and putting on a later Pokemon that I haven't talked about yet, which is Mudsdale. Because that could use Assault Vest really well, and maybe try like an item like Weakness Policy on Duralumin. That way I can run Protect, because a lot of it only has 2 weaknesses, but a lot of those weaknesses are like physical, or at least a lot of the ground ones. And if you can get a max move into its Protect with the Weakness Policy, that can be kind of nice. But again, its special defense would be really low at that point, and it'd have to support it well enough to do that. But that's one change that's worth considering on Duralumin. Next was a Pokemon I actually come to really enjoy using, and I really want to try it out on other teams, is Obstagoon. I think it's a really underutilized Pokemon right now. I think Dark typing is a really solid typing to have, especially since we have Dragapult around everywhere, which is a really strong Pokemon, and Obstagoon actually does really well against it in this format, which it's really nice because it's one of the few Pokemon that just outspeed Charizard outright, and can threaten a lot of damage to it as well, unless something like Whimsicott can support it well enough. But what I really like about Obstagoon's Defiant ability is it definitely deters Dragapult from Dynamaxing, because if it were to Dynamax and fire off a Max Wormwind or a Max Phantasm, it would give Obstagoon the Defiant boost, because it would lower its stat and then it would get the attack boost. And typically, I think the only thing that can knock out this Obstagoon is a Life Orb Max Wormwind coming off Draco Meteor from a special Dragapult. And you can actually take away some attack EVs and put like 60 special defense EVs in, and then you can actually live that, and then just proceed to do like 70 to 80 something percent with knockoff to a Dynamaxed Dragapult. So I think that's actually really powerful for dealing with the Dragapult. And also it's a really cool Pokemon because, Arcanine's a lot of places. You see something like Gyarados around, so if you can get an Intimidate into it, it threatens a lot, especially being as fast as it is. I love its base 95 speed, which another reason that I like Snarl, because it's a fast Snarl on it. It can pair with like Whimsicott and like an eject button. Put the eject button on something and then just snarl to like maybe weaken the special attack of one and eject out the other. So it kind of makes for a cool combo like that. Knockoff's just a good utility move. Double Edge is its strongest normal type stab. Also, it made for a good Dynamax Pokemon because its Dynamax attacks are pretty strong, as well as providing a kind of a bit of speed control with Max Strike, which I may have utilized a couple times, but it doesn't come up a lot. But it's a nice option to have if you need it. And then Obstruct is just like Protect, except that if attacking Pokemon makes direct contact, its defense lowers by 2 stages. So that's kind of cool. And I did try to utilize that in a way where I think an Arcanine attacked my Obstagoon into an Obstruct, it lowered its defense, and then my other Pokemon then attacked the Arcanine with a physical move that didn't knock it out like I was hoping, but did a lot more damage and hopefully gave it a chance to knock it out. So that's a cool ability, or not ability, but move to have. So Obstagoon, I'll talk more about it in one of the later slides. But Obstagoon's a really cool Pokemon. Oh, and then the Lumberry is just it's a really common Will-O-Wisp target, and a lot of times people with Will-O-Wisp eat the Lumberry, and then I'd still just do a ton of damage. So again, really straightforward Pokemon, but I think it's a really solid one that deserves more play, and I definitely want to try it out more, especially with Dragapult becoming so much more common. But yeah, so good against that. Next is Jellicent. This was originally a Rotom Wash because usually when I'm looking for like a bulky water type, I just default to Rotom Wash, but it really wasn't doing much for the team, and I hated the like Gastrodon Mudsdale matchup with the team, and because Rotom didn't do anything in that, it really just didn't. And so I wanted something else to kind of help with that. And you guys kind of saw, I think, one of the episodes where we faced 2 of them, and they were tough. They were very tough. But so I switched to Jellicent, and this is the same Jellicent I used on the first team that we featured, except at least statistically in the stats and such, I changed one of the moves up. But this one is nice because it has Giga Drain, so it can hit Gastrodon really hard and then just like heal up, and it should be able to beat something like a Mudsdale in a one-on-one situation if it came down to it, because it can't body press Jellicent, and I can just keep strength sapping it until it's doing no damage and then just scald it till it's done. And then it also this provides good Trick Room support for the Mudsdale on the team. That way, like, Mazal wasn't just like kind of the help against Trick Room and Sand, it also could get a speed advantage against faster teams that I had a good matchup against, or just like general speed control, and like if I needed that Trick Room as a win con or something, that's always handy to have, which is why I typically like Trick Room on my teams. Not so much to like be going for it all the time, but just to have an option, because it can create some really nice win cons. And so the spread typically will just live like a -1 Max Darkness from a Mega Tyranitar, or not Mega Tyranitar, but a Max Darkness from Tyranitar. But there's no Intimidate in the team, and it has the Culber Berry, so that's just kind of the generic spread I just kept rolling with, was this one. It has a lot more special bulk with this nature as well, and with no Intimidate, a little weird, but the good thing is it still can take those hits really well and just Strength Sap. It actually, in the battles on the channel, it never hit the field. I definitely brought it in the back a lot, but it never got to hit the field, even though it was kind of like, I set it up to be kind of the win con against a couple like certain Pokemon. But yeah, I never got a chance to hit the field and show its stuff, but I think that's okay. Well, I'll be featuring Jellicent and some other teams in the future, most likely. I think it's a underutilized Pokemon. Typing could be better because it has some weaknesses that are really common, but otherwise I think with its natural bulk, it's a really good Pokemon to use. The speed IVs, that's just how it was when I caught it, and I caught it in a max raid battle, and it had all the other stats, and I was just like, I'll just keep the speed as it is because it makes it like slower but not too slow. It's just weird. Eventually I might end up hyper training it, because I do have a min speed Jellicent as well for like other teams if I need it to be that way. So yeah, that's it. Just to be there, be a bulky Pokemon with a little support. And Strength Sap, Strength Sap's a broken move. It's so fun to like be at 25% HP, Strength Sap a Excadrill, and you heal up to full and drop its attack. It's really good. And then you can always burn it with a Scald later. Once you've made it do no damage, you can make it do even less damage. So. And then last but not least, Mudsdale. This Pokemon was put on here in order to help with the Sand matchup, because obviously it can hit both Excadrill and Tyranitar super effectively, and as it keeps getting hit, it will also keep boosting its defense, which makes for a neat combo with Body Press. It just starts getting stronger and stronger as it gets hit and hit. And I opted for the Figgy Berry so that way it gets a little health back after it's taken that beating, and then has more health to work with while doing damage. It makes for a good Dynamax Pokemon as well, because then it takes hits even better at that point. While boosting I can boost its special defense or its defense with its moves, or I could even boost its attack if I want to go for a Max Knuckle or something. But yeah, Mazal definitely showed its stuff in a couple battles that shows that it's also a really good Pokemon that I could see being used more often. I think it has a pretty decent matchup against Sand, especially if it gets going under Trick Room. This thing could be Assault Vested, and that's probably what I would have went for, but Duralumin already had the Assault Vest because I think it appreciates it more. But Mudsdale could use Assault Vest if we were to change the item on Duralumin at some point. Another one worth investing in or messing around with. As far as the EV spread goes, I didn't want to go min speed because this wasn't a Trick Room centric team, and so I want Mudsdale to have some natural speed, especially if it can outspeed some things in Tailwind that it wouldn't with min speed. The HP, I just want to give as much HP as possible while also hitting a HP number that was divisible by 4 because of the Figgy Berry. And then I think the attack stat was to like hit something like maybe knock out Excadrill or something like that. And then I put the rest in special defense because that was its lowest stat. It was a pretty just like kind of quickly made generic spread that I'd probably explore more, but it got the job done for what it needed to do in the few times it hit the field. So, okay, so when you're using a team, it helps to know what to lead, and with this team, lead combinations are actually really nice to know. Typically, you're gonna lead Whimsicott most of the time because Whimsicott just does a lot of the work as far as supporting the team. But by far, Whimsicott Charizard is probably the most common and best lead with this team and go-to lead because it can just exert a lot of pressure early with Tailwind or Fake Tears plus an attack from Charizard, Switcheroo eject button if they're gonna think they're gonna Dynamax and you know what they're gonna Dynamax. If you can stop Trick Room with Switcheroo, but yeah, it's all really cool, especially since Charizard is fast and has Heat Wave. You can Switcheroo something with the eject button and then Heat Wave, do damage to one or damage to both and eject out one of them that you want gone. So that's a really cool combo. I also would utilize Whimsicott Duralumin a lot, especially against slower teams where I can, Dynamax, Fake Tears, do a big attack, or maybe something in Snarl. Yeah, that was a pretty good lead, especially because Duralumin's bulkier. It takes hits better than Charizard. I also would use it to stop deal against Trick Room a lot, so I have a couple options, like I can get around Follow Me if I need to, or I can eject button the Trick Room setter and Snarl to get it out. Those are good options. And then another lead I utilized a couple times, or at least I can think of that could work really well, is obviously leading Obstagoon if you think they're going to lead something like Intimidate. Or Obstagoon usually would be a good lead against the Dragapult, and then you can kind of just lead it with whatever you need to. Whimsicott, because obviously you get speed control, it can threaten fighting types with Moonblast. You can switcheroo the eject button and then do like a fast Snarl or just fast attack with Obstagoon. Charizard threatens the fighting types with like Max Airstream. Duralumin, just obviously another good lead Pokemon. So kind of these four in general you'll lead with a lot. I never typically led with Jellicent or Mudsdale because I never would be going for Trick Room right away. It's more of like a late game thing, or if Jellicent just has a good matchup at the end of the game. And same with Mudsdale. It'd kind of be good to come in when stuff's weakened down a lot, so Mudsdale can come in, take some hits while it doesn't have a lot to deal with. So kind of more, I definitely would use Jellicent and Mudsdale more in the back at times. So, but typically it'd be some combination of these leads that I would use. With the other two being kind of a more bulky win con in the back, or just as a good pivot, because obviously a lot of these Pokemon aren't super bulky like Whimsicott, Charizard, and Obstagoon. They're more offensive, and so Jellicent and Mudsdale give me good switch-ins to certain things. Like there's an electric type threatening Charizard, I can switch Mudsdale into that as a good example. Or if there's a fighting type threatening Obstagoon, I can switch Jellicent into that. So that's kind of how that works for that. So, but yeah, try it out for yourself. Try these leads. Figure out your own leads on certain matchups. Obviously, the matchup will determine the lead most of the time. Okay, and then finally, and I'll have this in the description below as well as the paste, here is the team for you guys to try out yourself. Feel free to try it out, then make it in game yourself, do any changes that you think would be better, suggestions, whatever. It's just, you know, it's meant for you guys to just have something to play with. And yeah, I'll probably keep messing around more with some of these Pokemon or this team in general. But cool, and that will be it, guys. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Hopefully the season 2 of Ranked Battles is up and we can get started on that with a brand new team. Be looking forward to Gmax Butterfree. Don't know how that's gonna go, but we're gonna see if we can have some fun with it as we climb back up to Master Ball rank in season 2. Okay guys, take it easy, see you in season 2, and have a great rest of your day. Later.